Hello and welcome to Weekly MTG. I'm your host, Blake Rasmussen, and I'm here with two of our fantastic designers, Corey Bowen and Melissa DeTora. We are going to talk about a lot of Wilds of Eldraine stuff today. You're going to see a bunch of stuff at the bottom. We're going to talk about some main set previews, Jumpstart, Enchanting Tale, set boosters, a little bit of everything. And we're going to have a little message from Beadle and Grimm in a moment as well. But before we get to that, why don't, you're here, people generally know who you are, but what was your role for Wilds of Eldraine? What did you work on?
So I'm a senior game designer. I worked on a lot of the initial design for Wilds of Eldraine Commander, including the Commander set booster cards. And then I hand it off to Melissa.
Yep, I'm Melissa, senior game designer at Wizards. I worked on the final design for the Commander decks, I worked on the Jumpstart cards, and I did the Commander playtesting for the main set.
All right, so as I said, we have a bunch of previews to get through. We are in the home stretch for Wilds of Eldraine. But before we get to that, we have a pre-recorded video. So I'm going to throw to past Blake, as well as past Matthew Lillard and friend from Beadle and Grimm's to talk about something cool that they're releasing today. Check it out. Thanks, future Blake. I am here today with Matthew Lillard and Paul Shapiro from Beadle and Grimm's. And you might remember them, and you might remember them visiting us, talking about some cool things they've done in the past, like their Kamigawa bundle, Here Be Dragons, and some other things that I'm sure they're going to bring up. But for Wilds of Eldraine, they've cooked up some pretty tasty accessories that I'm gonna get out of the way and let you all talk about them. So what do you all have planned for Wilds of Eldraine?
Yeah, 5 years ago we started this company based on creating high-end premium accessories for Dungeons and Dragons. And with Here Be Dragons and Kamigawa, we decided to move that idea and sort of bring it over into the Magic space. One of the things that we found is that each box, each drop for us, we've learned a lot. We listen a lot to the community. Both Paul and I play Magic. Paul plays a lot more than I do. He kicks my butt constantly. It's really upsetting. But the idea of building in the space and trying to create high-end premium accessories for players means a lot to us as a company. And so we're excited to bring this new product to light. Paul, do you want to sort of go over? Both of us have one in front of us. Do you have yours in front of you?
I certainly do. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, we can just talk a little bit about what's in it. What you were saying about the other sets that we've done and learning. I mean, one of the things I think that we're excited about with the Wilds of Eldraine set here is that we kind of picked some of our favorite things from our previous sets, like Here Be Dragons and Kamigawa, and we sort of put them all together into a small little tin just for Wilds of Eldraine. So it has this beautiful art from the set in an embossed tin, and we really tried to lean into the whole sweet tooth gingerbread theme. And so the star of this set is Sir Gingerbread. We start with this tin that holds everything that's in it, and then my favorite part of it is we actually made a life counter with Sir Ginger. So it's actually a metal life counter that clicks around cool. with her, and it's really, we love it. It's fun. It's useful. You put it at the table. Matt has one too. It makes this really satisfying click.
My nails are disgusting. I'm a disgusting monkey.
But Ginger, Sir Ginger herself is really, sort of the star of this. And so she appears on the life counter. We also made a whole bunch of +1, +5s with the whole gingerbread theme. So gingerbread people, the little +1s are
right
guys.
Down the shield, yep.
And then Sir Ginger is +5. And then we looked at the set and just thought, what else could we, dig into or add
real
to?
quick, the thing I love about this, Paul, before you go on before we go on, I mean, the great thing about it is that it's, they're metal, they're super thick. One of the things that we find in the space is that sometimes not everyone's using the best quality stuff, and so we really try to invest in delivering like a quality product. So they're really heavy, they're really cool. And I don't know, I'm just really excited about the quality and how they came. Yeah, and how they came out. Sorry, keep going, Paul. You You were pitching your little heart out.
So, and the other thing that we were excited about, so for us, we're always trying to come up with a combination of things that are going to be sort of fun and collectible, but we really want to always try to make things that are playable. We want to bring things and put things in the sets that are playable. And so with Eldraine, because there was a new mechanic that's being introduced, we were excited about coming up with something that's going to help deliver on that new role mechanic. So what we did was we made a whole set of aluminum token cards. So these are actually aluminum printed token cards that use the art from the set, but use it in a way that's not being used on the regular tokens. So they're essentially full art tokens. And we did the whole set of all of the different role tokens. And they're really neat. I mean, they're this sort of really nice, sturdy aluminum, shiny on the back that you can use you can bite them. You can use them at the table. They're the same size as regular cards, so you can sleeve them if you want. But they're really neat. And the art, we really love the fact that we were able to use the art fully, because it really is beautiful, beautiful art. And I think the tokens, you get to see a little bit of it, but here you really get to see all of it. Yeah. And we were really excited about these.
And you could hear how heavy they were when Matthew dropped his.
Yeah, they're awesome. As I throw them at the screen. No, listen, I do think that this is one of the great things about being a licensee of Magic. They are great partners for us. We work really well with them, and they helped us, and they delivered us this great art, which is something that we're really proud of. So it makes it cool.
Yeah. And then the last thing we put in the set are dice. So spin downs. And just for me as a Magic player, I always need more dice, more things to keep track of counters. And so instead of just having a single D20 spin down, we decided to add a D20 spin down, 2 D10s, and 3 D6s, so that and it's all, themed. So they all match, they all look good. As a Magic player, I love having a matching set of stuff at the table, and I love being able to just keep track of everything that I have. And so we decided to just add a whole set of those to really sort of round this out. So, when you go to the table and you bring out Sir Ginger, you're going to be ready for some serious sweet tooth action.
Yeah, a lot like what we did with Behold New Phyrexia. We delivered a sweatshirt that we thought was really cool for the Magic player, and those did really well for us. So we went back and have added a sweatshirt with this drop as well. So it's just something that, in terms of merch, in terms of speaking to the community, we built something that we think is kind of cool. We sort of hid the branding, but it's Sir Ginger with like a little bite me next to it. I think you guys have an image of it that we'll throw up. So we're excited about those going on sale too. And those are going to be with us at MagicCon in Vegas, which will be cool.
So you all are going to be at MagicCon in Vegas then?
Yeah, I'm not going to be there that weekend, but Paul, you have the lucky opportunity to meet Paul Shapiro in person at MagicCon Vegas. I will be shilling myself in another con somewhere else, but we'll have a lot of sweatshirts available. We do have a very limited number of these. So what we did is we went out and sort of like, we're always trying to make sure as our business model here, we want to make sure we're selling out and moving full units. So there's not that many available of the set. It's reasonably priced. Paul, what are we selling it for again?
This is a $40 set. So the tin is $40 and includes everything that we just went through. And so those are going to be available.
So many counters, Paul. So many counters and so many aluminum cards. I mean, the people are going to lose their mind. Get it while you still can, people. Get it while you still can. But we are going to hold. The good thing is that we do go on sale next week. Or this week, actually. We do go on sale this week.
Today.
And then we are today.
Today
we go on sale. Sorry. So it airs. Anyways, the week before. Time jump. But we will make sure that we hold 200 of these to sell at MagicCon. No matter what happens, if they go flying off the shelves at Beadle and Grimm's. We will hold 200 of them for the first 200 people that show up at the booth in Vegas.
All right, and so to recap, for $40, you get the cool storage tin with Sir Ginger on the front. You get the all the metal roll tokens that you can throw all over the place and drop, and they're super heavy. You get the gingerbread people +1+ and +5 counters. There's the themed set of dice, all gingerbread themed, and then the Sir Ginger 40-point life counter. Now the sweatshirt is separate, correct?
Yeah,
correct. Yes,
the sweatshirt is a separate piece. You can choose to get that, but that'll be available at the booth, and then the roll tokens are as well. And we're really looking forward to MagicCon Vegas. We had a great time at Philly. It was a lot of fun. It was great to see everybody. We actually learned a lot from the feedback and just showing people stuff and hearing what they had to say. So a lot of that feedback went into this Eldrain product. So we're excited about that too.
Great.
Yeah. And success is one of the things that we hope to keep doing, building very specific high-end token sets and for specific drops. So.
And if people want to order these online, where do they go?
Yeah, beadleandgrimm.com/magic, right? Isn't it like a /magic and you're in?
Sure.
Easy to find. Beadleandgrimm.com.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you two for stopping by in the past for the future for this sale that is happening now in the future.
So crazy. It's crazy.
It's time is a construct. Nobody knows. But head to beadleandgrimm.com. The website will know. Or plan on stopping by the booth at MagicCon Las Vegas. So thank you two for stopping by, and we'll throw it back.
Thank you for having us, man. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to throw it back to past Blake now.
Future Blake. That's fine.
Yeah, future Blake. Thank you, past Blake and Matthew and Paul. Those are on sale right now. If you head to beadleandgrimm.com, I put the link in chat if you're interested and check those out. But let's talk preview cards. We got the rest of the show to just talk preview cards. So we're gonna kick things off with some cards from the main set, and we're gonna start things a little slow. We're gonna ease into this, and we're gonna show off the basic lands, the non-full art basic lands, which are gorgeous. And let's put those up there. We got 10 of these to show off. And there we are.
Big fan of that mountain. Really like that mountain.
The mountain with the beanstalks going around is fantastic. Yeah.
This island's sweet.
I like that one too. And the swamp, the little purple lights in the swamp, very pretty.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a look at the next 5. There we go. This little darker tone. That plains speaks to me.
I dig the forest with the little lights. I'm a big fan of little lights.
Little lights. So the swamp is good for you too?
Good. Any contrasting colored little lights.
Any tiny lights, that's what Corey wants.
Yes.
You hear that, artists? You want to work for Magic the Gathering, tiny lights.
I desire
tiny lights. All right. Let's move on to a few rare preview cards. We've got one of the Cycle of Restless lands. So this is Restless Vinestalk. It's the blue and green Restless land. It enters the battlefield tapped, of course, and for 3, a green and blue, until end of turn, Restless Vinestalk becomes a 5/5 green and blue plant creature with trample. It's still a land whenever Restless Vinestalk attacks. Up to 1 other target creature has base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn. I really like that this card doesn't specify your creature, and you can shrink an opposing creature to trample past them if need be. All right, next card we're going to show off is Questing Druid. So this is one of the multicolor adventure cards. We've got a 1 and a green for a creature, Human Druid. It's a 1/1, but it has the ability whenever you cast a spell that's white, blue, black, or red, put a +1/+1 counter on Questing Druid, and the adventure is Seek the Beast. 1 and a red for an adventure. instant, exile the top 2 cards of your library until your next end step. You may play those cards. This one's a callback to an old favorite.
Yeah, Quirion Dryad.
Yep.
Yep, I used to play that long ago.
Vintage playable Quirion Dryad for a time.
Extended.
Yep.
I remember taking it to a GP like back in 2002 or something.
Yep. Yep. And Magic passed that card by a little bit, but I think you stick an adventure on it that gets some additional cards, and you know, if you have multiples of these, the adventure triggers the creature side and feeds itself, and I think we'll be seeing a lot of this card.
Yeah, this card is awesome. So much value, and it's also pretty interesting that like it's not always obvious to play the adventure first rather than this guy. Sometimes you just want to run this guy out on turn 2.
All right. Now let's check out one of the objectively sweetest cards in the set.
Oh yeah.
It's really cool. It's also very powerful. So let's take a look at the Iron Crag. So the Iron Crag is a 2-mana legendary artifact. Tap, add colorless. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may have the Iron Crag become a legendary equipment artifact named Everflame Hero's Legacy. If you do, it gains Equip 3, and equipped creature gets +3/+3 and loses all other abilities. So, first of all, Melissa, this is a 2-mana mana rock.
Yeah, this is a pretty big deal for Standard. Standard hasn't had a 2-mana rock in a very long time. I don't even remember when that was. I'm sure the chat can answer, but like really big deal to have a strong ramp piece as strong as this. And also a pretty big deal in Commander. Like there are already lots of options for 2-mana rocks, but here's another one, and it also becomes a sweet sword later.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic card for equipment decks. A lot of them, you know, the density what equipment are in your deck for Commander is something that you have to think about when building an equipment deck.
Yep.
But a mana rock, you're always going to have a mana rock. You're always going to want 2-mana mana rocks. And to have a 2-mana mana rock become an equipment, I think is such great utility for basically every equipment deck that's out there.
Yeah. And this one's pretty powerful, but also like the level that a 2-mana colorless mana rock needs to clear to get played in Standard is pretty low. Just like if we printed 2-mana tap add a colorless, it could see play.
For sure.
So yeah, this does more than that. All right, so that is the Iron Crag. All right, so now we're going to move on to the Jumpstart cards. So first of all, before we jump into the Jumpstart cards, that was bound to happen. Melissa, there's some weirdness because we aren't actually printing Jumpstart packs for Wilds of Eldraine. So what's going on here?
Yeah, there's some weirdness. So we work on products a year or more in advance. So we thought we were going to make the Jumpstart product. So we made the Jumpstart product. We made all the new cards, made the packs, and then somewhere down the line we were told, hey, we're actually not going to release this as a Jumpstart product. But we still had the cards, we still had the art, and we were really happy with a lot of the designs, so we decided to release the cards anyway. And now they're just going to be in the set boosters, and I believe collector boosters, right?
Correct, yeah. Yep. So yeah, you can still get all these in set and collector boosters, all the places you could get the Jumpstart cards outside of Jumpstart packs before. So they'll be available. So let's go through these. First up, we have Food Coma. So Food Coma is 3 and a white with some amazing bee art. It's an enchantment. When Food Coma enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls until Food Coma leaves the battlefield. Create a food token. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so a lot of these cards were made with the Jumpstart packs in mind, obviously, so they're playing into the themes of what would have been the Jumpstart pack. So this one was trying to do like tying in the token theme of making a food and also being a really cool removal spell. And they decided to give this like really cool bee sheep art, which is really funny. And we all like really fell in love with this artwork. And when we found out we weren't making Jumpstart, we were like, but what about the bee sheep?
Bumble sheep. Yeah, bumble sheep. It's right there in the flavor text too. Busy as a bumble sheep. That is apparently a saying.
Very great concept. Amazing card name. Gotta love this card.
All right, next up is Lady of Laughter. And the first thing you might notice before I read the card is that it has an extended version as well. So the rare Jumpstart cards do have extended versions that you can get in collector boosters. So Lady of Laughter is 3 and 2 white for a creature fairy noble. It's a 4/5 with flying. And it has Celebration. At the beginning of your end step, if 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn, draw a card. Melissa.
Yeah, so with the rares for these cards, they had 2 goals mainly. One was obviously to be cool in the Jumpstart packs, and the other goal was to be a sweet commander card, because a lot of new players tend to jump into commander after they're done, with their new player experience. So, so this card was trying to play into the theme of like rolls and auras. So that's why it has the when 2 permanents enter the battlefield thing, because when you play a card that makes a roll, you get a bonus permanent. And the ability is also generally useful in commander, where you always have lots of things entering the battlefield all the time.
And in this case, the art says it's going to be a squirrel and a frog and some nuts, I guess, are the things entering the battlefield. Because, yeah, sure, why not? All right, next up, we have Pests of Honor. 2 and I just got that pun. 2 and a white for a 2/2 creature mouse. It has Celebration. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Pests of Honor. So this is another Celebration card.
Sweet card with Celebration, doing roll stuff, just a cool, fun card. And a mouse.
And a mouse. There's a lot of cute mice in this set. We'll take another one.
Yeah, actually one of our goals was to make a lot of the cards cute. So we were really going for cuteness. So we wanted to give like cute creature types. You'll see another cute one later. I'm excited about it.
All right, well, let's move on to Fairy Slumber Party. Some of you may have seen this card yesterday, but it is 4 blue for a sorcery. Return all creatures to their owner's hands. For each opponent who controlled a creature returned this way, you create 2 1/1 blue fairy creature tokens with flying, and this creature can block only creatures with flying.
So again, this is trying to have a goal of being a cool commander card, and also it was really hard to find a rare that was fun in a fairies deck that like didn't make the opponent feel bad, because fairies are just like, they're very tricky, and
their whole shtick is making people feel bad about things. Yeah.
So it's hard to like find a rare that was like, hey, this is not miserable to play against. So we really leaned into commander a little bit more on this one with the for each opponent who controlled a creature returned shtick. So I think this turned out to be a really cool commander card and just like a nice board reset and gives you some fairies. So just cool thing.
Yeah. So that's there are some people asking about the collector number. Why is it 310? Why is this 311? And again, those are the numbers given to Jumpstart cards, which are above and beyond the main set, but still standard legal. Next up, Rowdy Research. Rowdy Research is 6 and a blue for an instant, but this spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature that attacked this turn. Draw 3 cards.
So fairies are about having a wide board of flyers, so we wanted to make this like a payoff for having a bunch of attackers, and you can also use this defensively as well if your opponent is attacking you with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, this is a card.
Oh yeah, it doesn't say creatures you attacked with this turn. Okay, I dig it. I dig it. All right, next up, another fairy. We've got Storyteller Pixie, 3 and a blue for a creature, fairy wizard. It's a 3/3. It has flying. Whenever you cast an adventure spell, draw a card. Yeah,
so again, the goal is being cool in the Jumpstart pack, so that was the inspiration for this card. It had a lot of cards with adventure, and when you combine packs, like you're naturally going to have a lot of spells with adventure.
Yep.
And we just wanted to make a cool card for like a casual constructed adventure deck.
Yeah, absolutely. And this takes those boxes. All right, next up we have Experimental Confectioner. So this is 2 and a black for a creature, human peasant. It's a 2/3, and when Experimental Confectioner enters the battlefield, create a food token. Whenever you sacrifice a food, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block. Of course, sacrificing foods brings the rats.
Yeah, this pack, the black pack, was about tokens and sacrifice. So this is just like, hey, here's a bunch of tokens.
Yep.
And the flavor is really cool too with this food guy.
flavor. All right, next up, we have another rare. So this one's pretty cool. So this is Malevolent Witch Kite. So it's 4 black for a creature Dragon Warlock. That's a pretty fantastic type line there. It's a 5/4. It flies. Whenever Malevolent Witch Kite enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of artifact, enchantment, and or token creatures, then draw that many cards. So it's kind of doing a mass bargain there.
Yeah, we actually tried to put bargain on this card, but it was like a little bit too hard to work in the rules without putting a bunch of like unnecessary rules text on it. So we just didn't write bargain on this. And the inspiration behind this card was we wanted to make a dragon who's also a witch. So here's what we came up with.
There you go. This is my favorite of the Jumpstart cards. I think this card is so sweet.
Yeah. This will make an appearance in a lot of places. All right. Next up, fun legend, old Flitter Fang. It's 4 and a black. It's a legendary creature rat fairy because, and it's a 3/4 with flying because it's a fairy. At the beginning of each end step, if a creature died this turn, create a food token, 2 and a black, sacrifice another creature or artifact. Old Flitter Fang gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Old Flitter Fang, huh, Melissa?
Yeah, so first I'll say good job to the creative team for making this concept work. Because I remember we wanted to have a creature with flying to just help the pack close out games in the Jumpstart experience. And we also wanted to have a rat because there was like a bunch of rat creature type matters going on in the packs as well. So we were like, hey, can we do this? And we were like, there's no way that we can do this. And then the creative lead was like, actually, I think I can make this work. So he came up with Old Flitter Fang. And we added legendary on it late because it felt pretty legendary, like especially with the name. So this can be a cool like peasant commander. Is that what you can do with like the uncommon commander?
I think people are going to find things to do with this just because I mean, look at it. It's a rat fairy. And it's yeah, that's so cool. All right. Next up we have Become Brutes. 1 and a red with some fantastically weird art there. It's a sorcery. 1 or 2 target creatures each gain haste until end of turn. For each of those creatures, create a monster roll token attached to it. Melissa.
Yeah, this card had some weird goals, I would say. So one was be a card that can help trigger your celebration by making the 2 monster rolls.
Yep.
2 is like help close out games with the trample. So if you're playing like the red-green pack, for example, you know, you would play this on your big guys and have a way to close out games. And I guess 3rd is like the concept, just like 2 guys becoming huge. It was just like really funny. So that's what this card was trying to do, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Charging Hooligan. Charging Hooligan, 3 and a red for a creature, human peasant, 3/3. Whenever Charging Hooligan attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each attacking creature. If a rat is attacking, Charging Hooligan gains trample until end of turn.
The red theme was trying to do rat creature type matter stuff, so that's where this card came in.
All right. Speaking of red rats matter, we've got Ogre Chitterlord as the rare red card. 4 red for a creature ogre warrior. It's got menace. When Ogre Chitterlord enters the battlefield or attacks, create 2 1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature can't block. Then if you control 5 or more rats, each rat you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn, and it's a 6/5. I love that this has like Titan vibes going for it.
That was intentional. We wanted some Titan vibes here, like to help packs close out games, and also just be a cool like go wide payoff for like a casual constructed deck or a commander deck or something. And then it has the whole rat bonus going on if you're into rats.
If you're into rats, which this Chitterlord clearly is. Now, I've been playing a bit of Arena Cube lately, and I've drafted a few Grave Titans myself, and this is not like far off. It's not as good, but it's not that far off.
It's definitely reminiscent.
It's reminiscent. Certainly is. All right. We talked about cute cards earlier. Here's one of those cute cards. Intrepid Truffle Snout. Look at that little boar. It's 1 and a green for a creature boar. It's a 3/1. Whenever Intrepid Truffle Snout attacks alone, create a food token. And then it's got an adventure. Go Hog Wild. Good job naming team on that one. 1 and a green for an instant adventure. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. All right, Melissa, Go Hog Wild, tell us about this card.
First, great name, love it. And so when we were making this product, we had a bunch of new designers on our team. Our team was pretty new at the time, so this was a lot of firsts for a lot of our new designers. So the person who designed this wanted to make a pig who found truffles. Great. So top-down pig who found truffles. Okay. And she did a great job, so shout out to her. Yeah, this card is adorable.
It's adorable. The art's fantastic. Yeah, I love everything about that card. All right, next up, this is some of my favorite art in the set on this next card, actually. Provisions Merchant. 2 green and a green for a creature beast peasant. It's a 3/3. When Provisions Merchant enters the battlefield, create a food token. And whenever Provisions Merchant attacks, you may sacrifice a food. If you do, attacking creatures get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn.
Yep, so the green pack was obviously a Food Matters pack based on the last 2 cards we've seen. So this is like your food payoff win condition.
So is that like an Eldrain hamburger on a skewer or something?
Could be. Let's call it that. Let's say it is.
Yeah, sure.
We'll check the art description later. All right, final card, Wildwood Mentor. The final Jumpstart card, I should say. We've got more preview cards. Wildwood Mentor. 2 and a green for a creature tree folk. Whenever a token enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Wildwood Mentor. It doesn't trigger once per turn. It's whenever any token enters the battlefield. So this can get big pretty fast. And whenever Wildwood Mentor attacks, another target attacking creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Wildwood Mentor's power.
Yeah, we want the rares in this product to generally be a little broader, so you can put them in your casual constructed deck or your commander deck or something. So even though the theme was food, we wrote token on this to make it work in a variety of commander decks. So like, go nuts in your soldier tokens deck or, whatever you want to play. But this card can get huge very quickly in Commander when you're building around it.
Absolutely. All right, that covers all of the Jumpstart cards. Now, a reminder, these are going to be found in set boosters and collector boosters is where they're going to be found since there is no Jumpstart product for this set. All right, next up, we're going to talk about 4 of the last Enchanting Tales. And we're going to talk through, I believe it's a couple uncommons, rare. We've got one of the Japanese treatments, so let's take a look at our first one, Compulsion. This was a blast from the past for me. Yes. I don't remember the last time we printed this card.
Yeah, I card in Torment, and I used to love this card. Drafted with Obsessive Search.
Yep.
Get your madness value.
Yep, absolutely. So for those who aren't familiar, because it has been a hot minute, 1 in a blue for an enchantment that says 1 in a blue, discard a card, draw a card. 1 in a blue, sacrifice Compulsion, draw a card. So this card, back in the day, it was a madness enabler. You can do a lot of graveyard shenanigans with this. Really cool card. A lot of wild things you can do with this. Next up is a really clever inclusion, I think. Hatching Plans. 1 in a blue. It's an enchantment that says whenever Hatching Plans is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw 3 cards. That's it. Yeah. There's no way on the card to sacrifice it. It's just there. But I think this with Bargain is really clever.
This is like one of my favorite cards to draft when playtesting this set. Is bargaining this is a dream. As soon as I see this in a pack, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm picking this, I'm picking bargain cards, and I'm drawing a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course that art is gorgeous. I love the flavor. Taking a dragon egg and it's gonna hatch, and it's not gonna be great for them. Yep. All right, next up, when I first saw this next card on the list, I was kind of like, what's this card doing here? But I think it actually is really clever because it covers multiple archetypes. So Dragon Mantle, it's a red mana for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. When Dragon Mantle enters the battlefield, draw a card. So it already replaces itself if you're going to bargain it away. And then enchanted creature has red. This creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn, which, of course, the green-red archetype cares about power.
Yeah, this card's sweet and limited. Like a lot of the limited themes care about like multiple permanents entering the battlefield or your stuff being enchanted, and this replaces itself at a very low cost. So like low opportunity cost to put in your deck.
Absolutely.
And sweet art.
It is sweet art. We did get the question in chat, and just to clarify, are the uncommons standard legal like they were with Strixhaven? No, they are not. So the Strixhaven uncommons were cards that already existed in standard, and thus were standard legal. They weren't made standard legal because they were uncommon. That is not the case with the Enchanting Tales here. All right, finally, a pretty sweet reprint that has the anime treatment. We've got As Foretold. 2 and a blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on As Foretold, and once each turn you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast with mana value X or less, where X is the number of time counters on As Foretold. And you can see the alternate art there on the right.
It'll be interesting to figure out what people are going to do with this in limited.
Yeah, I don't know. This card's really sweet. It's super powerful. Obviously, you can do some cool things in older formats with the suspend cards that don't cost anything, and you can cast them immediately. But yeah, draft, no idea.
Probably just plays as a pretty fair, like Ether Vial type thing in draft.
Yeah,
You can
absolutely.
also bargain it away later if you don't need it anymore.
That's true.
That's true.
That is true. All right, that's what we have for Enchanting Tales, but we're not done yet because, as Corey alluded to earlier, we also, both Corey and Melissa worked on the set booster cards. So the set booster cards are commander legal cards that are only found in set boosters and collector boosters. And they have a bunch of sweet effects that don't really fit into the main set, but do a lot of cool things. So we're going to talk first through a cycle that are reminiscent of an old cycle. So let's start off with Court of Ardenvale. So this is 2, a white and a white, for a white enchantment. When Court of Ardenvale enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. If you're the monarch, return that permanent card to the battlefield instead. So Corey, first of all, why don't you talk about sort of the goal with this cycle, and then we'll talk about this card specifically.
Yeah, so these 5 cards, obviously they're courts. They're all going to be giving you the monarch. They're very reminiscent of the court cycle from Commander Legends, the first one, which ETB give you monarch, have a trigger that upgrades if you're still the monarch.
Yeah.
And a lot of Wilds of Eldraine is focusing on kind of the wilds of Eldraine and less so on the courts. For the set booster cards, we thought it'd be fun to pull more inspiration, see what's going on with the courts, and see if we could mix the monarch mechanic as a fun commandery multiplayer gameplay piece into those courts, the 5 courts of Eldraine. And so here we are, we have 5 courts doing the monarch and just generally trying to be pretty fun cards with this structure, whereas the art is kind of, hey, letting you know what's up with these courts nowadays post the war, you know, the multiversal war.
Yeah. Now I'm seeing a couple questions or comments in chat, Melissa, about, you know, maybe some of these are going to be legacy playable. Did you all have legacy in mind when you were developing these?
We're making cards that are Eternal format legal. We always have legacy in mind. We have several legacy consultants in the building that we ask about, especially for mechanics that are historically legacy playable, like Monarch. So for these, we were very mindful of like, oh, hey, these are probably going to affect legacy. We should talk to the legacy consultants and see like, hey, are these like cool in legacy? Are they positive additions to the format, or like should we pull back a little bit? So yes, we did have this in mind, and I'm not sure if these are going to be like strong in legacy, but like if they are, like maybe that's cool.
All right. So let's take a look at the rest of these, and we'll talk about them individually. So next up is Court of Ventress, also known as the blue one. 2 blue for an enchantment. When Court of Ventress enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose up to 1 other target enchantment or artifact. If you're the monarch, you may create a token that's a copy of it. If you're not the monarch, you may have Court of Ventress become a copy of it, except it has this ability. This one's kind of different and intriguing.
Yeah, instead of like strict additional upgrade, you just get some more value out of how you're copying it. Either it's this strange shifting copy enchantment or artifact, or it's making duplicates of those artifacts if you can manage it. So it's kind of a tricky one, but Ventress, they love their mirrors, so kind of made sense flavorfully.
Yeah, we wanted to like make you get paid off if you keep the monarch, which I think is really hard to keep in most commander games. So for this one, like since this one is so weird, like it's not generally useful like the last one was. You know, you have to like be building around it with enchantments and artifacts. So we wanted to give the player more of a payoff if they kept monarchy here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next up, Court of Locthwain. 2 black. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. You might be sensing a pattern. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of target opponent's library. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast it. If you're the monarch, until end of turn, you may cast a spell from among cards exiled with Court of Locthwain without paying its mana cost. Now, I understand that this card was reworked over the course of the development.
Yeah, so I did a lot of the initial design here. Me and Jeremy Geist worked on these cards on the earlier part of design, and then we handed off to Melissa. I remember shipping the structure maybe with the exile the top card part, but I think the upgrade was different. Do you have any?
I don't remember what the card used to do, to be honest. But I do remember that we did redesign this one. But I don't know, like, first I'll just say, I love exiling the top card of opponent's library in Commander and playing it. It's super fun. It's random, high variance. You never know what you're going to get. So I think that ability is really cool. And secondly, the floor of this card is very high. You're just getting a card every turn. So when something has this high of a floor, we want to not also give it an extremely high ceiling. So the upgrade is a little bit less than like maybe the upgrades on some of the other ones. Like you're only getting a card for free rather than a card that you have to pay mana for. So that was the idea with this one here.
Yeah, I like that, like you can stockpile kind of the cards that you're exiling, and if you have the monarch for one turn, you can actually cast a card from the past that maybe you exiled and didn't have enough mana to cast.
Yeah,
I think there's kind of some fun.
It's not just that turn. Yeah,
you exiled at that moment, you could cast some previous one. So there's a fun little dynamism to play this card.
Yeah, and as Chad's pointing out, this art is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
All right, next up we have Court of Emperorth. 2 red. Enchantment. When Court of Emperorth enters battlefield, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 3/1 red knight creature token. Then, if you're the monarch, Court of Emperorth deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of creatures you control.
Yeah, this was another one that got changed a lot from when I had my hands on it.
It did change a lot. There were a few reasons. One was power level. I think that the card that you shipped us might have been too weak, but I don't remember exactly. It was well over a year ago. Yeah. But another thing that I remember about this card is another thing that us as designers, we have rules to follow in regards to color pie. And so I remember this card was not adhering to color pie when we got our hands on it because white is supposed to be the best color at tokens. And this card was a very strong token maker that was stepping on white's toes. So we had to redesign it to make it feel a little bit more red. So one of the things that we did to make it feel more red is the payoff for if you keep the monarch, you get to deal damage, which is very red. So that was that was good enough for satisfying the color pie council there.
Right.
All right. Well, let's move on to the last of the courts, Court of Garenbrigg. So 1 green and a green, that's a different mana cost. I'm breaking my pattern here. We'll talk about that in a sec. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among up to 2 target creatures. Then if you're the monarch, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. All right, talk about the mana cost. Talk about how this one came to be.
All right. For the mana cost, I'll just say that symmetry is a prison and nothing is real. For how it came to be, mostly this is just the type of green card I really enjoy. I'm always making stuff like this, where you're putting counters and you're doubling doubling the counters on the creatures. I just think that's a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
A big Hydra fanatic, so hey, here it is. Quite simple. Put counters on it, double it if you stay the Monarch. That's the dream. I really like there's like that Naya Monarch guy from Commander Legends 1 that puts a bunch of counters on himself. So hey, it works with that.
Yep.
You can double the counters there.
Yeah, and as for mana cost stuff, like it's nice to have a clean cycle with all of the same costs, but then you run the risk of like having different power levels that you might not be happy with. And I remember this one was just not a very satisfying card to play at 4 mana.
Sure.
And we really felt like 3 mana was like the way to go here. So we were kind of weighing in like, do we break the cycle or do we like keep it and just like, we know we're going to have like a slightly weaker card. And then if you up the number of counters on it to compensate for the mana cost, it's just too strong and not fun. It snowballs really hard. So we just felt like 3 mana was correct here. So we decided to just break the symmetry of the cycle.
Yeah.
So sorry, Corey, if that was something that bothered you. But
I think it's a great design. No, I literally do think that symmetry is a prison. And
Nice.
I agree, like at 4 mana, there weren't satisfying numbers for this type of design. At 3 mana, everything flows easier in gameplay, and it makes sense in the point of the game that you're playing it. So I'm a huge fan of where this landed.
Cool. All right, we have 3 set booster cards left, and they're pretty spicy.
Oh, I'm so excited for
Yep,
these.
yep.
Sweet.
All right, so we're going to leave, before this next one, Melissa designed the original Corvold. Chat had, a few people in chat have been saying, bring us a new Corvold.
I have great news.
Foreshadowing. I don't, is this one busted too? I don't know. It's pretty strong. It looks pretty cool. So let's.
Well, I'd like to hear from the chat. You guys think
We'll
that.
see,
I'm not
we'll
going to
see.
say my opinion on the power level or
Once
anything.
we show the card, let's hear what chat thinks of Corvold Gleeful Glutton. 5 black, red, and a green. It's a pretty high mana cost for that legendary creature, Dragon Noble 4/4. But this spell costs 1 less to cast for each card type among permanents you sacrifice this turn. Flying, trample, haste. So this is getting through.
Oh, yeah.
This is getting through.
They're better.
Because when Corvold deals combat damage to a player, put X +1/+1 counters on Corvold and draw X cards, where X is the number of permanent types among cards in your graveyard. All right. Talk about how this card came to be.
I mean, so from my perspective, I knew I wanted to make a Corvold. I also knew I wanted to make, like, my goals were split. I wanted to make Corvold.
Yeah.
I liked this idea of doing this pseudo delirium type thing in this set where there's a lot of bargaining going on. You want a lot of different permanent types. I really enjoyed moving Corvold to that direction because you originally cared a lot about sacrificing. I also really, really wanted to make like at the time I wanted to make a card that cost like 10 mana. And I think I shipped this to Melissa like 10 or 12 mana.
I think it was 12 mana or something.
some ridiculous amount with some insane thing. I'm really happy with 8/4. So I really wanted a Jund commander specifically, that had a high mana value, so I could play. I mean, past few years I've been designing these cards that scale on your commander's mana value, and a lot of them landed in Jund, and I really wanted to position Corvold as this big sacrifice card that could play those cards. And then I shipped it to you, Melissa.
Yeah, so as the person who designed the first Corvold, I knew that this Corvold had a lot to live up to. And I knew that it was going to be really hard to live up to the first Corvold because that Corvold just draws so many cards. So the direction that we went here was if the player like makes a lot of puts a lot of work into their deck building and does a ton of setup, then you can get this massive payoff of like drawing a ton of cards the same way that the first Corvold did. So and like. I think to get the cost reduction, you have to do a lot of work. You know, you have to have like treasures or like artifact tokens or just maybe you're doing some bargaining stuff, but you have to do a lot to get the cost reduction. And then when you do get it, like it's easy to just hit them and draw a bunch of cards, but you get massively paid off if you end up putting in that work and filling up your graveyard. So does it live up to the first Corvold? I would like to hear from chat about that.
Seems to think it's not as powerful as old Corvold.
Hard because Corvold just draws a card if you just like
If you sneeze on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is it as cool as original Corvold? Is
They
it
seem to
cooler?
think it is pretty cool, but it's not as powerful as old Corvold. All right.
Could be, though, if you put in the work.
It could be.
I think it's cooler. I'm a big fan of Corvold. I think it's so sweet.
All right. Next up might be an even sweeter card.
Oh,
It might be.
It is my favorite card that we designed in this set.
This is Brennerd, Ginger Sculptor, 1 green, white, and a blue for a legendary creature, Human Artificer. It's a 3/3. Each creature you control that's a food or a golem gets +2/+2 and has trample. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1 food golem artifact creature in addition to its other types. And it has 2, sacrifice this artifact, tap, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. Turns your creatures into gingerbread.
Your creatures into gingerbread. I adore this concept. This idea that we saw this in the old Eldraine, like their trailer, we saw these gingerbread people fight Garrick and we saw them run through a kitchen. I just was left asking, whose kitchen is that? Who is making these gingerbread people? No, I adore this card. There's a lot you can do with it. You can do some typical, abusing different creatures' dies and ETB's triggers by having them come back as food. You could even play a bunch of old Phyrexian like golem makers, those cards that come in, make a 3/3 golem, and suddenly those golems have +2/+2 in trample. So you can you can sprinkle some golem stuff in it. You can play a food deck where you start animating your food, and suddenly those animated food has +2/+2 in trample. Mind you, those splicers and like stuff that animates artifacts often have ETBs, so when those dies, they come back and they can do their stuff again. There's so much to do, I think, with this Ginger Sculptor, and I just think the concept is so lovely. I have no idea why he's wearing goggles, but I am here for it.
Making ginger people's hard work.
It's hard work.
You can get gingerbread in your eye,
Yeah.
gumdrops shooting all over the place.
So it's a serious workplace hazard. But I'm really happy with where this went.
Yeah, me too. I don't really have a ton to add. I think we didn't actually change this card very much because the concept was just so great, like, other than like numbers tweaks and stuff. But yeah, this card's awesome. Our team loved it.
All right. And then let's look at our final card, which is this set's, they said the thing. The thing. The last card is Throne of Eldraine. So it's a 5-mana colorless artifact. It's a legendary artifact for that matter. It should be. It's the Throne of Eldraine. As Throne of Eldraine enters the battlefield, choose a color. Tap, add 4 mana of the chosen color. Spend this mana only to cast mono-colored spells of that color. 3 and tap, draw 2 cards. Spend only mana of the chosen color to activate this ability. Lot going on here. Talk about the goals of this card.
There is a lot going on. Mainly, this is trying to be a nice, powerful piece for monocolored decks. It's making kind of a callback to the adamant mechanic in the original Eldraine that incentivized monocolored decks. And there was a lot of incentive for some monocolored play in that Eldraine that we don't see a lot of in Wilds of Eldraine. So bringing this back was cool. It's a nice little epic centerpiece towards the courts and the story of the OG Eldraine, which I like bringing back as a nice artifact. I think it's fun among the set piece cards that have this kind of headstone piece. And it does a lot for monocolored decks. And in Commander, multicolored decks have this inherent advantage of being able to access so many more cards. So trying to design a big mana rock like this that makes a lot of mana and draws a lot of cards that is explicitly good for monocolored decks and is not as good for 2-color, 3-color, 4-color decks. That's really what we're trying to achieve here, and I'm pretty happy with where we landed.
Yeah, I'm happy as well. Spot on with the goals. Like in Commander, it's usually more appealing and just stronger to play a 2 or 3+ color deck. And we really have to incentivize you to do a monocolor strategy, and I think this card is doing that. And yeah, I think this card ended up in a really fun spot.
Yeah. And I love that it meets that goal while at the same time being this throwback to the original Throne of Eldraine. We got a lot of questions when we started talking about this set about, where's the monocolor stuff, the court, and we're like, well, they're not in a good spot right now, and so we didn't do that. But I think this is a really cool callback that gives that touch of flavor.
Right, we're making nods to classical themes, and the main set is kind of expanding on these wilds, and it's such an awesome set, but we still want to pay homage to like all this cool stuff.
Yeah. All right. We have only 5 minutes left, so we spent a lot of time talking about the cards, which is fantastic. If you do have questions, feel free to throw them in chat. It helps me if you tag @Magic, and then it will help me notice them a little bit better. So we're going to start with, I saw a question about the precons. When are the commander precon lists going up? Those are all going to be previewed tomorrow. MTG, if I'm remembering correctly, MTG Mudsta and the Command Zone will be previewing those 2 deck lists. So look for those to go up tomorrow, and then the full card image gallery for all of Wilds of Eldraine will be up on Thursday. Let's see what else we have for questions in here. So we did talk about this earlier, but just to clarify, where are the Jumpstart cards going to be available with no Jumpstart packs? They will be in set boosters and collector boosters. You can head to the Collecting Wilds of Eldraine article on dailymtg.com for the details, but they're available in those 2 spots. Here's a question for you two. I saw this a few places. Various versions of Where's Shoelane? So Shoelane was a character from the original Brawl decks in Wilds of Eldraine. Was there ever any attempt to design a Shoelane card?
Not with the decks we have going on. He didn't really fit. Shoelane is, you know, he reads like very generic, but he's or his power or his ability suite kind of pays you off for casting creature spells. But I think Flavorfully is a lot more adventure oriented, and these commander decks are enchantment, fairies, and then when you look at the set boosters, it's a plethora of monocolor and these kind of one-offs. So Shoelane didn't really fit the puzzle here. Maybe we'll see him another day.
Cool. Let's see. Have all the rares and mythics been previewed for the main set? I don't know off the top of my head. We are nearing that part of the preview plan. There may be some left today, but I'm not sure. Great question. Where is Oko? Don't know. Stay tuned. And the story, if you haven't read it, is all out on mtgstory.com. I will say Oko is name dropped in there, so check that out. But there is no Oko card here or Oko character lurking about. Wonder why. Let's see. Will we ever see Guff return, Corey?
Yeah, maybe. One day, if Commodore Guff is inside me at all times, he's he just comes out sometimes, but I've taken over and I'm back in control.
Yeah. When does the full set list go up? Thursday. So Thursday, 8 a.m. Pacific time-ish is when the full card image gallery will be up. Is there a legendary creature with the bargain mechanic in the set? I don't remember. I feel like there's gotta be, but
I don't remember.
Off the top of my head, I don't have any recollection, but certainly, like with Corvold and stuff, there's stuff that works well in that space.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. All right. Let's see if we have one last question. Are the anime versions available in regular boosters? So they are available in a number of boosters. The Enchanting Tales can be found. There will be one Enchanting Tales in every draft booster. If you want the anime versions, your best bet is collector boosters. Those have a higher frequency of the anime versions. For details on that, so I don't stumble further over it, head to dailymtg.com, look at the Wilds of Eldraine, or Collecting Wilds of Eldraine article. That will have the details on exactly where to find each of the different treatments, as well as like what each of the different slots are in each booster. All right, that is our time for today. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Melissa, for joining us. Thank you, for tuning in. Daily MTG is, or Weekly MTG, I've been saying Daily MTG a lot. Weekly MTG, this show right here, is going to be off next week. And then we will be back the week after that, opening packs and kind of showing you what's in the various boosters for Wilds of Eldraine. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.